welcome to In the Studio with Matt, Tommy, and Patty Ann Hale here on a beautiful day in Asheville. Glad you're here wherever you may find yourself. Sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee or some lunch, and it's lunchtime, so I'm thinking about food, but enjoy yourself, and we've got a great show planned for you today. Just real excited about all the things that we're seeing in creativity, not only in our own lives, but in the lives of some of our friends. And so I want to be able to share with you today a little bit about how to find and develop your unique creative voice. And it's something we're really passionate about, and hopefully be able to give you some insight into that today. Speaking of creativity, you got like big creative weekend, going to Jesus Culture this weekend and all that.
Jesus Culture, and got some new things for my house, and
that's about as much culture as Wayne gets. And I'm just kidding. Sorry, Wayne, if you're listening. So he listens sometimes. So I better hush.
Don't know what to say.
Patty's tickled. That's right. It was good though. It was a concert, and
and the highlight too. We went by and saw our friends at Morning Star.
Awesome.
So they were having a conference there we didn't know about, and so saw my friends Sandy Hall and Linda Wentz, and that was really great. Their creativity is exploding more and more all the time. So.
And then yesterday we had such a great day at church. Our good friend Diane McFerrin, who's an artist out in Black Mountain, we opened a show yesterday at Kim Glory Church out in Swannanoa of about 15, 16 pieces of her work, and just beautiful. It's called The Journey Home, or Journey Home rather, the show is, and I guess the last year or two pieces. Yeah, the pieces are from the last year or two of her work.
Yeah.
And just really exciting. It was always, I have to tell a funny story. Of course, Patty said, "Okay, Matt, you're in charge of the reception," and so I'm on the way to church yesterday, and I'm like, "Oh my God!" I left my wallet at home, and it's always on those rainy days. Like I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to get pulled over by the cops and all this," and then I get to the grocery store, and I'm like, I can't buy nothing for the reception because I got no wallet. And so I called Patty or texted her, and I'm like, no reception today. Just got to smile and hug, And so Patty stops off at the gas station and we couldn't find the real pineapple juice, so we had gas station punch yesterday.
Pineapple peach mango, and a little pint of vanilla bean ice cream and Sprite.
And then we put the ice cream in the punch, and it was so good. And then I started looking at it, I was like, oh no, there's dirt in this. I said, what is this? And it was the vanilla bean specks that were like in the frothiness. I was like, we got dirt in the punch. We got to take it back.
And I'm sure you're thinking you probably didn't wash the bowl.
Exactly.
Because Patty wasn't here to make sure.
Exactly, because I wasn't washing nothing. In fact, last night Tanya got home. She's like, how did y'all wash did y'all wash all that? I'm like, yeah.
I saw you putting the punch together, and I knew Tanya wasn't there, and I was like, I hope he washed it, but I'm not going to ask any questions.
Just don't ask. By the time all the fizz gets in there, and it'll be fine. So, but just a great day, and it's been interesting to Diane to talk about her work just for a second, because we've gotten the opportunity to see her work over the last couple of years and get to know her, and over the last almost 4 years now for me, last couple of years for you, and. It's been really neat to just see her progression, and I think then you got to see Sandy's work this weekend at Morningstar again, just kind of seeing progression, and then it's funny, we both love Pinterest. If you're not a Pinterest person, we love Pinterest, and Patty went on there the other day and was looking at my work and looking at kind of some of the things that I pinned on there that I like, but also my own work, and just talking about how it's interesting how somebody develops a voice over time when you can kind of stand back and look at that from a kind of a retrospective. And so we just kind of wanted to talk about that today, because it's one of those things that I think if you jump into it too quickly and you try to make something happen, you end up with a bunch of mess. But if you kind of begin to let things evolve, for me, that's how it kind of happens, as I let things evolve naturally and continue to fill my creative tank. Then over time you do begin to develop your own voice, but obviously very heavily influenced by people that are in your life, things you love, that sort of thing. And I thought that was great what you said about Sandy, just kind of where you saw maybe that's a great place to start.
Yeah. Well, Sandy is an amazing prophetic artist, and I've known her for several years. And, we worked at Morning Star together on the art team. And she has a very fluid, beautiful style prophetically. And it really speaks of the atmosphere and shifts atmosphere. But recently she had been, kind of dabbling in a few different themes and genres of art, just trying to find like exactly where she wanted to land. And I know it was several months ago she had done maybe 2 or 3 pieces that are botanicals. One large, especially very beautiful. I think it was a peony. It was like maybe 5 foot by 5 foot,
Wow.
large painting. Close up, very Georgia O'Keeffe.
Yeah.
And so that's hard to say, Georgia O'Keeffe.
Right.
And so when I saw that painting, I said, "Oh, that is so you, Sandy," because she is a gardener and she loves to grow flowers, and she loves to give gifts, give people gifts of flowers, and she just knows flowers in and out. And I said, that is like your language, because you know the intricacies of flowers. You're right there with your hands in them.
Right.
I said, I think you should pursue that. And so she had been doing that, and so I hadn't seen some of her new work. And so when I saw her this weekend, I walked in and she had an iris that was huge, again, a huge canvas, and a lily that was pretty big as well. And there are these close-ups of these flowers that are just gorgeous.
Right.
One, I bought one of her prints. And if you're local, we're going to have her prints at River Oaks, so you could come and see them. But
or if not, we'll be glad to ship to you all around the world. So.
And some of her originals as well. But she had a lily that was totally looking as though this lily is reaching into the presence of God, because the coloring that she did, that she usually would do prophetically in the background, just has this atmosphere of the Lord's presence. And this lily is just kind of coming off from the side, like it's reaching into that.
Yeah.
And I said, that's totally what's happening in this painting. She's like, that's exactly what I was feeling.
Yeah.
So she's taking the theme of a flower, but she's totally letting the Lord speak through that, and it is just so impressive. I'll try to post some of her work on our worship studio group just to let you guys see what I'm talking about with her work, but it's just beautiful. So she's found her sweet spot. She's found her niche. And she has a niche also in prophetic art.
Sure.
But she has found something that's very marketable. And I said, now you need to just find this market for it. And she really feels like the Lord's, pushing her into that, like marketing her work more. And I love that she's going to be putting this work out in the marketplace, but it so carries the presence of God as much as her prophetic art did. It's still prophetic in nature. It's still very, very beautiful. It evokes such a emotion and atmosphere. It's just lovely. And it's been nice watching her find this place with the Lord, learn how to move with Him, learn how to paint with Him. And then she kind of, felt her way out into different areas, like, well, maybe I want to do this, or maybe I want to do that. And then to find this place now where she's like, oh, I just feel like this is it, and it's so overwhelmingly beautiful to her. And so I think we all kind of go through seasons of finding that. And so I'm just really encouraged for her and excited about that process.
It goes back to the point of how, God always uses the things that we're passionate about to ignite our heart. He'll use anything He can just to get our attention. And I think creatively, if He can use those, like with me, with my baskets, just being in the woods, doing things with my hands, even as a kid, this compulsion to make. And yes, I was a musician and He's used me in that way, but it's that connection with doing something physically with my hands and sweating and being out in the woods and that sort of thing that I really connect with, and that's what people connect with my work. And I think it's just so beautiful. It reinforces the point that all of our work is called to be prophetic. All of our work is called to carry the life and light of God, not just worship art that's done on a stage in the context of corporate worship or even in our quiet time, but that. And I love when people make that transition, not that you're leaving one, but that you're taking this, it's like an evolution, that you're taking all this wonderful connection with the Lord and ability to hear the Holy Spirit and move with Him, and you're taking that now more into culture, I guess, more in a way that regular people can access it and buy it, that don't have to be that maybe are not Christians, or not coming to a Christian event, or
Right.
hearing you talk about worship art or that sort of thing. And I don't know, for me, I just love that it seems like, I don't want to belittle the other, but it seems like a further place that she's going. It's like, I want to continue to do this, but I'm also now able to use this to take the next step in my own creativity,
Right.
because that's what I love to see, is then now, okay, I'm using this beautiful methodology, if you will, that God's shown me over the years of how to engage the Holy Spirit, paint with Him, and now I'm able to walk in that in such a way that I can be prospered financially, I can be given influence in culture, and I mean, just all these sorts of things that are, I don't know, I think are real important things as we are about raising up an army of artists. It's not only about our personal place with the Lord and just about a worship expression, although that is primo and core and central to what we do. But it's about how do we go from that place. I call it moving from the cloud to the crowd. It's
and relate.
Yeah, and relate to people. And so it's not that you ever leave the cloud. It's like you're in the cloud. You're walking with the cloud,
Right.
but you're walking into culture. And I as far as people developing that voice, I hope that people will hear that today. That where you are is never, hopefully, where you're going to be in a year, 5 years, 10 years.
Right.
You're always stepping and moving and evolving creatively. If you're not, you just die.
I think so often we have this perception that it's like, oh, we got to find that one thing that will be who I
Right.
am,
Ta-da!
that will be my
Right.
style, and I'll just kind of stay there for the rest of my life. And sadly, that has been very successful for some artists
Sure.
that are in the marketplace. They find a style, and for years and years and years, they keep doing
Make
the
that
same
thing, right, or paint that
because
thing.
it's successful and it sells. But I don't see that with most artists that I know now. There's always this evolution of their process and their product, where you can still tell it's theirs, but
Right.
there's a fast-moving pace.
Right.
I mean, some of the great artists that I know, like Sarah Rowland, I asked her one day when I was down at the studio at Village Potters, I was like, so how many years have you had, like, your style? Like, you've been working like this? And she kind of told me some of her progression, and she said, I'm always still pressing into new things. But she locked in on, like, who she really wanted to be and what she wanted to say
Yeah.
with her work several years ago. And but you can still see a progression in her
Sure.
work, just as little as I've known her, about 3 years. I can still see that she's always pressing into a little bit of the
Right.
new, but it looks like her.
Right.
And so I think that's what keeps it lively and fresh for us. So,
Well, otherwise you're a manufacturing facility, and who wants to do that? I mean, it's
Right.
I joke about that with my wine bottle baskets, but I'm like, they're fun after the first 50, and then after that, it's like, okay, I'm done, and so, but it's like, for
good
me,
thing you can get 50 out.
well,
It's still
exactly,
fun.
but it's after, well, maybe I exaggerated, but
With me, it's like 5.
right,
I'm done.
if that, right, but yeah, I think it is about that. It's about continuing that evolution. And when we come back from break here in a minute, I'd love to talk about this whole idea of filling your creative tank, because we both really are very intentional about that. I give you a hard time about that with your YouTube addiction, but but I do the same thing. We're both always looking for new inspiration. And I told somebody the other day, I've been doing graphic design. I used to do it professionally. I don't do it anymore professionally, but use it every day in what we do with ministry. And I was telling somebody the other day, I said, I learned to do graphic design by copying other people's, once I learned a few techniques, then I would say, okay, can I make that? And
Right.
can I make it look like that? And then
Right.
I would kind of expand from there. And it's interesting now that I have mastery of a lot of technique in my basketry. It's not that I'm necessarily looking for how do I do that, but I'm looking for more of the essence
Right.
of that thing. And I'm constantly, via Pinterest and other places, just using that to fill my tank. So when we come back, let's dive into that and talk about how you can fill your creative tank and continue to develop your voice. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on In the Studio.
You are listening to 95.7 The Choice, where we're not afraid to play a 6-minute song.
Did God tell you to move to Asheville, but you don't know why? Well, maybe we can help you with that answer. We have named our church after the book of Acts in the Bible. We call it the Acts Church. We as humans have overcomplicated this life here on earth and our understanding of God and the Bible. After all, there are only two things that God has told us to do. We are to love Him and to love each other. Come as you are and meet the love of a lifetime. His name is Jesus Christ. Visit us at axchurchasheville.com.
The world loves thrift stores, and we've just opened one. Acts 2 Thrift Store, sponsored by the Acts Church, is now located at Business Park South on Sweden Creek Road. We have everything from furniture to clothes, tools to toys. We're open Wednesday through Saturday, and we welcome your donation items as well. Just follow the signs to Act 2 Thrift Store.
Programming at 95.7 The Choice is made possible with the generous support of business partners like Area 22 Guitars. Area 22 Guitars is Western North Carolina's only boutique guitar shop. Whether it's an American-made all-tube hand-wired amp like Matchless, Divided by 13, Carr, or Fargen, or a U.S.-built custom luthier electric guitar brand like Anderson, PWE, Zion, Rowan, or Gatto, Area 22 Guitars specializes in the unique needs of the discerning musician. They carry a full line of boutique effect pedals like Keeley, Exotic, Rockbox, Menatone, and Wampler. And their acoustic guitars include Breedlove, Larrivee, Eastman, Bedell, and Crafter. Area 22 Guitars, not your average guitar shop. For more information, go to area22guitars.com or call them at 828-884-2222. That's 828-884-2222.
Welcome back to In the Studio with Matt, Tommy, and Patty Ann Hale here on 95.7 The Choice. You can always listen to us live every Monday at 12 o'clock here in Asheville in the region, or get us online in the archives at theworshipstudio.org/resources, and you can go in there under In the Studio and download or share or watch live all of our archives as well. Also join us on Facebook if you've not already. We've got a just incredible Facebook community of artists and creative folks. You can look up the Worship Studio group on Facebook or our Worship Studio page and connect with us there. We'd love to find out what you're doing in your creative world. We were just sitting here watching the trucks go by and all this. If you don't know, we're here at Asheville Radio Cafe and right here on Patton Avenue, watching all the traffic go by as we're doing the thing. And our buses here in Asheville, they're so cool. They're like bright lime green. It says art on the side of them. Asheville redefines transit. I'm like, I love that. You know, where else do the buses look cool? You know, but Asheville. So anyway, well, we've been talking about filling your creative tank and kind of developing that as a part of developing your unique creative voice today. And we both are just really passionate about that. I know for me, I was really kind of prodded to go into that when I read Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way, and she talked about the whole concept of artist dates and going on artist dates and doing things intentionally that really bring out your creativity and cause you to look at life in a different way. And so, you know, going to Home Depot, the junk store, going for walks in the woods, anything like that, that, not Goodwill, but I didn't mean junk store in that way, sorry. But if you,
I didn't say
that's
anything.
an inside joke, so you can go back and look at other archives if you need to do that. But, but those kind of things, you know, just to really intentionally feed myself creatively, and they really have been a source of inspiration for me along the years. And then when Pinterest came along, I don't know, for me, I just loved that. I would go on websites and find pictures and everything, and I, you know, great, bookmark them or whatever, you know. But now with Pinterest, for a visual artist, I just love that because I can take these images now and put them in one place. And I don't know, they always, when I'm working on a new piece, or I'm like, what was that thing I saw, or what was the way they did this, or it just kind of inspires and informs. And I was telling you the other day, you know, there's a piece that I saw in there that was a Japanese basket that I looked at that thing the other day. I saw it on a website. It's from the early 1900s. It's an ikebana basket, which is a Japanese flower arranging kind of thing. And oh my gosh, I started crying. I was like, what is it with this basket? I'm like, it's like the Holy Ghost is on the Japanese ikebana basket. I don't know. But it so inspired me that I just did this really beautiful piece that was very inspired by that. And I don't know. I think mine's prettier, but I just was.
You wasn't crying in the day that you made that one in the studio. You were just like, ah.
I was. I love this, but. I don't know.
Don't be crying now.
That's right. I was having to wipe out. I was a little bit clipped, but no, I was so inspired by that, and so. For me, I know that's just kind of a constant part of what I'm doing now is collecting images and housing those in a way that that I can use them and I can refer to them. And I know, we talk about a lot how creative people, we've got to be stewards of the download. That, when God gives us something, or when He sparks our interest, or when He shows us something that we should be paying attention to, we're responsible for that. And if we don't take that. In fact, this is funny, and then I'll give it to you. This is funny because Jason, a friend of ours, Jason Calhoun, who's a great musician, was sitting in front of me in church yesterday, and I had said something about, I wrote this song, God gave me this song at 5:30 in the morning, and he leaned back and he said, yeah, God gave it to me at 4 o'clock, but I said I didn't want it. I'm like, well, isn't that nice? So, but, it goes to the point of we got to steward these things. I think God does sometimes drop things in people's spirit, and they don't do anything with it, and it's just kind of out there, and it's for the taking. And so, filling that creative tank as a source of inspiration is so huge.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it's a way of life. One thing as you were talking that came to my mind. I've always done that. I think since I was a little child, I was always looking at beautiful things and dilly-dallying and wasting time. That was my mindset about it. And until I realized that it was valuable to live that way, and that really was just a few years ago, that I really gave myself total freedom to live that way. To spend time looking through magazines, to spend time walking by the river and picking up meaningless little things, to most people meaningless, and to, spend time just looking through artwork on and on and on and on. I always thought that I was wasting time and I needed to be more productive and I needed to be doing something rather than just constantly feeding that creative place in me. It was not until I began to give myself freedom that I began to really internalize what I was taking in, and that began to come out in my work.
Right.
And so I think it's so important to continue to live that way all the time. To live that way.
Well, I think. Go ahead.
I think for you, what you were saying, that you were always also involved in music. I think that's the first thing I recognized about your baskets was that they were musical. They had rhythm
to them.
And so...
Which I never saw. I mean, you were the first person that ever said that. But.
Right. So I think everything that you're putting into your life in a creative way comes out in whatever product you're creating at the time, whether it be music or whether it be visual art, whatever you're involved in. Everything that you're taking in becomes part of that. And so it's so important to live a good life.
Right.
To live that way.
Right.
To be taking in positive things and recognizing positive things, even in relationships, I think it's so important. So.
Well, we both believe, creativity is overflow. It is really, it's the things that you're processing and living and feeling and understanding in your life, and then out of that, God gives you this beautiful outlet called creativity, and it all looks different for all of us. And so, I just really believe that the beauty that hopefully if you're living a beautiful life, it comes out through your work. If you're living a life of angst and fear and all that, it comes out as well. And I'm not saying God can't use both of those, but it's, I don't know, for me, I just, several years ago too, is like, I don't want to live a life going, well, when I get enough money, or when I can get a job that pays me enough, or when I can make enough money to get out of the rat race, or when I this, or when I that, or when I retire, then I can do what I'm passionate about. I don't want to live like that. It's the same thing. Let's live lives of intention. Let's live lives of creativity and beauty that really, and to me, that forces then me to continue the journey of creativity, because it's not just something that I do on the side. See, that's a big thing for people. I don't make a living financially off of my baskets, but I'm in the studio 40 hours a week working on my baskets. Well, how does that work? Well, that's my passion. That's the voice, one of the voices God's given me. Everything else I do, the speaking I do, the book writing, the the leading worship, all these other things, they all are a part of my creativity, my creative voice, and they enable me to do the things that I'm passionate about. And I think a big part of finding your creative voice is structuring your life in a way that will yield the results that you want.
Right, yeah.
Because if you are wanting to be serious about developing your creative voice and developing your own style and that sort of thing, and yet you consider your creativity just something that you do when you have enough time, or something that you just do on a whim, or when the kids have gone to bed or whatever, then it's like, well, now how important is this?
Right.
Because I know this. People do what they want to do. People spend money on what they want to spend money on.
Right.
And people ask me all that, man, how do people pay so much for your basket? I was like, because they value it. You value different things. That's like Tanya and I, we were looking at our budget the other day, and it's like, man, we eat out a lot. But we like to eat out because we're both so busy that for us, being able to just check out and go to a restaurant and be able to connect with each other,
Right.
as opposed to staying in the kitchen, for us, that's not restful.
Right.
It's like, we got to get it done. So we've structured our life in a way. We just know, okay, we may spend a little more on going out than other people, but that's okay. Well, the same thing is true with our creative life. I've structured my life in such a way that I can do the things that I think are important, that I feel like God says are important for me. And out of that, this voice and this style begin to come, not only just overtly in baskets, but in the flavor and the voice of your life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Everything that you're involved in all wraps in. I see it all the time with being there in the studio with you. It wraps into what you're creating.
Yeah.
There is that voice, or sometimes even that struggle. The struggles that you have, or the things you don't understand, or the things you're trying to process, go into that basket, and an expression comes out of that. And so, you're a fast-moving processor too, because I was telling you when we left when we were down at the studio, I was looking at your Pinterest and looking at your baskets just in the time that I've known you, and it's just been this rapid progression of stylistically and even metaphorically what they're saying, which I probably read into that more than most people, but just like there's just been this rapid progression and growth in your work. I know for me, we're talking about how we kind of move away sometimes from what the Lord is doing in our work into another place that may be more relatable. I know that for several years, the Lord's just been teaching me how to paint with Him. And I was doing, I guess about a year and a half ago, I was doing a lot of abstracts that were very much like what I was seeing in the Spirit. A lot of movement, a lot of complexity that I was seeing in the Spirit. And I was painting that. And I loved those abstracts because it totally expressed visually what I was seeing in the Spirit and how I felt in the Spirit. But I remember I came to one painting that was, I would call it like the highest or the most intense spiritual experience I had since I've been in Nashville in the studio. And that piece was called Arcane Interconnection, which means arcane means something that only a few people know. And then the interconnection was like how everything is interconnected, interwoven. And so I felt that with that piece, that it was like this very high spiritual experience. It was something that the Lord was letting me see that maybe a lot of other people don't see. And I realized at that point that it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience and a wonderful expression. It was like the Lord said, that's far enough for now. And He began to bring me back, not in a digressing kind of way, but bring me back and start to give me looser expressions, more simple expressions that wasn't that complexity, but it was just simplicity. And so I've been, for the past 6 months or so, been on that journey of like learning how to pull back and only say a little bit of that at a time. So like now I'm in this theme of ascension, and it's like I'm painting ladders and kites, and I'm finding that that's enough. Like whereas before I would want to do several layers and say a lot, and I would get the full complexity of that and want to say all of that at one time. It was like the Lord said, no, let me just bring you back and help you say just a little to each person that's going to see these paintings. And so I'm doing these themes of ladders and kites, and I have never until now, stayed in one theme as long as I am. I've done several paintings in the way of these very soft colors, very loose abstraction. The ladders just keep showing up, and I'm like, God, what are you doing? Why am I just staying here?
It's funny, in the studio the other day, we put up all these beautiful collections that Patty's got some smaller ones, larger ones, vertical ones, horizontal, whatever. So you grouped them in collections, and we stood back, and I was like, I love this collection thing. And you're like, well, I hope people like ladders, because that's what I'm painting, I
said, if people come in and go, I don't like ladders, bye.
I was like, well, what about baskets? Do you like baskets? I hope you do. So
it's been this way of the Lord just pulling me back and keeping me in one season for a while. And I think the simplicity is sometimes more relatable, even in a spiritual, which is what is really important to me, the spiritual message that's coming forth. They can grab hold of that easier than this abstract, complex thing that I'm seeing in the spirit that's all supernatural and wow, and I would have to spend an hour to explain to them what was going on. It's like simply, this is a ladder. It's about ascension. It's about climbing. It's about coming out of one season and into another. And that relates to a lot of people. But I don't discredit like where I was with the Lord a year and a half ago, because it was like I learned how to move with him. I learned how to find color with him in the place of the Spirit that I never knew how to do before. And so it was like he was teaching me through the very visual expression that I was doing and bringing me to where I am now. And so I love that part. I love the journey of how you move from season to season. I see that in your basketry too, how you'll find one thing and then you'll press into that and you'll find something else new. And I think a lot of times that's by looking at other people's work. That we're not
just in a vacuum.
We're not just on an island on our own, but that we are a collective of creativity, and the Lord's wanting to say things through all of us. And so
well, let's talk about that when we get back, because that's a wonderful thing. I really believe that we think that creativity is this thing we all do in the closet or in the studio by ourselves, and yet it is this community-oriented thing, and not being afraid to press into the news. So wherever you are today, we're so glad that you're with us. Stick with us. We got about 30 more minutes here on In the Studio, so we'll be right back.
Asheville's Choice, 95.7.
Did you know that cystis, also known as Rose of Sharon, has been studied for its effectiveness in the regeneration of cells? Cystis affects the upper part of the brain and may also help quiet the nerves, calm the insomniac, as well as elevate the emotions in meditation and prayer. 95.7 The Choice would like to thank Jackie McLaughlin for her generous support. For more information about essential oils, visit oil-essentials.com or call Jackie at 828-452-2958. That's 828-452-2958.
What is the center of your universe? Has that brought you true satisfaction? The center of your universe will determine if you are truly satisfied. Jesus is the center of the universe, the source of all satisfaction. Curious? Explore Centrality, weekly opportunities at 5 p.m. at 12 South French Broad Avenue in the Cornerstone Church Sanctuary. For more info, go to www.centralitychurchasheville.org.
Where do you turn for Christian concerts and events? Where can you get news from a Christian perspective and encouraging articles written by and about the local Christian community? Turn to the Journey Christian newspaper. Available in print and online. Visit www.journeychristiannews.com or call 828-676-6535. The Journey Christian newspaper. Encouraging Christians on their walk with Christ.
Welcome back to In the Studio, here with Matt, Tommy, and Patty and Hale, talking about how to develop your unique creative voice today. It's been really great so far. We're so glad that you're listening to us here live on 95.7 The Choice here in Asheville. You can also get our archives at theworshipstudio.org/resources and check out our archives there. You can watch them, share them on Facebook or Twitter or wherever. And also just want to encourage you, when you're at the website, take a look at, we just posted on Thursday of last week, Gathering of Artisans is now open for registration. We're so excited about that. We've already getting registrations from folks from all around the country, and we're just really excited about that. If you've not been to Gathering of Artisans, it's a 4-day weekend, some 5 for some people that come early, but for some intensives, but 4 days of worship, hands-on workshops with master artists. Sean Foyce this year is coming to lead worship. Anthony Skinner, Vivian Hibbert, myself, Patty, Ray Hughes will all be there, in addition to a ton of other artists, helping you really to become excellent at what you do, but also learn how to engage the Holy Spirit in the creative process. And just, the best part is just being with your tribe. I mean, that's what we say. It's just like a big family reunion, and it's a great, great opportunity to be inspired, to find that new place in the Lord for your creativity in the next season, and connect with other folks. It never fails. You'll have people that come individually or as small groups, and they get there and they're like, I didn't know you were in my area, or you live 2 hours from me. We should do something. And so it's really cool how that happens. So you can go to either theworshipstudio.org to get information on that, or you can go to Gathering of Artisans. That's ARTISANS. gatheringofartisans.com, and you can find out all the information. We got a video coming out this week about it as well, and begin to register now, because it's gonna fill up. It's gonna be an incredible weekend. So it just never fails that weekend. I think I love seeing the inspiration and the aha moments that happen, and just the thing that God does in people's hearts.
Yeah.
I mean, last year Patty ended up on the floor at the end. I mean, it was. It was great.
It was great.
under an umbrella with me and Jonathan David Helzer singing over her. It was great. So if you want to see that, come to Gathering of Artisans. So anyway,
it may be kites this year.
Yeah, that's right. You never know. Or ladders. You'll have ladders all over you. So. Well, we've been talking today about the whole idea of finding your unique creative voice, and we believe prophetic voice, because all of our work is supposed to be releasing the life and light of God, the testimony of Jesus through what we do, and so much of that, we were just saying in the earlier segment, is not just this in a vacuum, individualistic sort of pursuit, which most artists, I think, believe, is that, I got to get alone, I got to figure this out, but it is the benefit, the fruit of living this awakened life, living this life that is receiving, intuition and feeling and receiving messages from the Spirit and downloads from the Spirit of God, and also just feeling and sensing and understanding everything that's around us in the earth and in the world and in our relationships, so that we can use those things as creative inspiration. And for us as visual artists, I know we're always doing that by looking at pictures, looking at other people's work, trying to feel that out. But a lot of times people say, well, gosh, isn't that a cop-out? Isn't that, shouldn't you find your own creativity? And it's like, listen, there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, there's always, or maybe you could say everything is new under the sun, because
that's what I was going to say. I tend to go the other direction.
Well, because
everything's new.
Because what you're doing, I guess, everything is an evolution. And everything that I'm doing, everything that you're doing, is not just something great that you came up with, but rather it's something that you've stepped off of something somebody else has done, that they've influenced you in such a way that now goes into your spirit and becomes a seed that produces. And when it's kind of like when you take a branch from one tree and you graft it into another. I kind of think of it like that. The fruit that comes out of that is now something new. It's this beautiful thing that happens. And I think our creativity is like that. It's this series of grafts that happen, so that what comes out then is our unique voice, and yet it's not unique at all. It's all these other influences that have come in. So,
well, I think we can get a bit prideful about, in that place of thinking that we are the one that has the only way it's ever been done. And, I do also believe that the Lord can give you, I believe that He gives new expressions
Sure.
all the time, and there are things in the
Secrets of the
atmosphere,
kingdom, right.
yes, that he wants you to grab hold of, and that will be new in some way. But what I love seeing, like with those places, that season that I was in, where I was doing these abstractions with lots of circles and
Right.
lots of movement and some geometric shapes, I would look at those, and they totally come out of a place of the Spirit. And I had never seen this anywhere, I don't think, that except in the place of the Spirit. And it was my best interpretation that I could get. You know, what I actually put on the canvas was the best I could do to match what I was seeing in the Spirit. But I would look at those, and then I would look at Kandinsky's work, you know, Vasily Kandinsky, and I would look at his work, and I would be like, oh, he was getting it too. I can see the same kind of thing, like he was capturing that too. And so I think that's kind of where I come from. A lot of times it's like I look at lots of work, and I'm like, okay, Lord, what are you speaking to me? What's coming up in my spirit? And where am I seeing the same kind of movements or the same kind of brushstroke? It's not like you're just looking at someone's work and then copying it.
Right.
It's like you're seeing something, for me anyway, something of the Spirit there. Like the basket that you saw that made you cry. I mean,
Well,
it's like
something resonates in
something
you.
happens
Right.
here. It's
Right.
like a threading back and forth. That's like, oh, this is where I need to go. This
It's
is
of
what
the
the
same
Lord's.
fabric.
Yeah.
It's,
Resonating
Yeah.
is a really good word
Yeah.
for that. And I think even for you with music, you know, you talk about my YouTube addiction. I'm always scouting for new music, because when I hear new music, when I hear something new that no one's ever done, I begin to see something that no one's ever seen, I think, or that I've never seen. And so it's like this correlation. The same with dance for me. The movement is so important. The movement, the sound, and then the expression of that, light and color and form, all are interconnected. And
Right.
so it's always this process. I feel like August Rush sometimes, you know? And it's always this process of just hearing and seeing and feeling new things. And out of that place comes this expression. But when I get on Pinterest, it's like I'm looking for that. I'm looking for what that feels like in my spirit. And so I'll tell this little story. I recently got on Pinterest and started to do a Pinterest board. And I may have learned this from you or maybe someone else, that it's good marketing to create a Pinterest board of things that you love, of paintings that you love, or whatever your genre is. For you, it's baskets. And to create this board, but then also put in some of your work, so that when people are looking at these amazing boards of great paintings, in my case, then they would also see my work. So I began to first just go, I want to really see some new paintings. And so I started to collect that on a board. And then I'm like, I should put in some marketing here. I should do what I know to do and put in some of my paintings. So I started doing that. And all of the paintings that I was loving looked so different than my paintings. And so as I would pop one of my new paintings in, it would be like, that doesn't really look anything like all of the visual elements that I'm loving. And so I began to learn from that, like, okay, I need to move into a new season, because what I love is not what I'm doing.
Right.
And so I could see something visually that was resonating with my spirit that I was not touching yet. And so I then began to like loosen my abstraction in a major way. I started to do speed painting so that I would not put all of that complexity in there that I was talking about earlier. I had to be simple, and I had to give myself a time limit of doing a painting in 20 minutes and leave it. And it was the hardest thing, to turn loose of it and not go in and put all the complexity in that I love, and just to be able to release it and let it go. And so I've been doing that for 2 or 3 months, and it's really helping to develop this new style that I'm moving into that I really love. And so now I can put some of my newest paintings into that Pinterest board, and I'm like, oh, I see the relationship now. So I learned from all these other contemporary painters. They weren't master artists. It was all contemporary painters, painters that are living right now. And so I'm learning from their style. And what it helps me to realize is that I'm not privy to anything that everyone else isn't privy to.
Right.
The Lord is speaking to everyone.
Right.
And even if they're not believers,
He's always
He's
speaking,
also
right.
speaking, and they're grabbing something of that essence that is the beauty
Right.
of God.
Right.
And they're expressing that. And so that's teaching me something about my visual language, but it's also teaching me something about life
Right.
and about my Christian journey,
Sure.
my spiritual journey, to not discredit other people's expressions,
Right.
because God is speaking through it all.
Well, and the word says that in the last days I'll pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Old men dreaming dreams, young men seeing visions, and all means all.
Yeah.
And so the people that are listening are picking up things. They may not know where it comes from, but
Right.
it's really, it is wonderful. I think if we ever limit ourselves, God forbid we ever limit ourselves to receiving inspiration just from the Christian, culture.
It's what our Christian culture does, though.
That's right.
We were talking on the way up here. It's
Oh,
like, I'm just, there's just so much in our Christian culture that is so Christianized that it just doesn't even seem relatable anymore.
Right.
And I'm like, how do we say things differently that's still true, but not put them in our boxes as though we act like we are the only one with any answers at all?
Right.
How do we say things that are inclusive rather than exclusive?
Right.
And so
It's funny, on the way over, I was behind this car, and they had this big Jesus bumper sticker on it, which, and I was just thinking, I was like, I got to write a song. And so I came up with this thing. I was like, would Jesus drive a clunker with his name up on the bumper? And I was like, I got to take that somewhere, because that's too good to lose right there. But it is just that over merchandised, over sales. It's just like, gag me. People are so over that.
Yeah.
I'm over that. And it's like, so. Yeah, I totally agree.
It sounds really Christianized, but it really does just come down to loving people. And
Right.
it just comes down to, let go of all of our know-it-all expressions that we have as Christians, that as though we are the only ones
Who have it.
who have it.
Right.
And just love people and let them walk their journey, and quit
Right.
trying to walk everyone's journey for
Right.
everyone.
We were in the studio talking about something the other day, and Patty was like, I wish people would just let folks live their life. Just let folk alone, and
Just let them be happy.
just let them be happy. And it's like, hello, that is, the Lord told me when I came here to Asheville, it's like, you do the loving, I'll do the changing. And that is so true, I think, from a creative perspective as well, that when we can let all that religious, icky filter off of your heart.
and
just,
off of your art.
Yes, and just say, Father, it all belongs to you. You created all these people love you, everything, and just begin to receive and say, now, Father, you be my filter.
Yeah.
You allow the things that you want to speak to my heart to speak to my heart. And you protect me from those things that don't. And don't let my preconceived whatevers get all in the way. And I remember for me, you've kind of gone from really tight and intricate stuff to more loose, and I've kind of gone the other way. I mean, for so many years, my work was, I would have called it rustic back then, because it was just, crappy,
Rustic.
but it was rustic. But it was very much, it was a hobby for me. It was something fun I did. It was great for what it was, but it was very, very loose and messy and hairy, the work, all the fibers all over it and all this kind of stuff. And yet when I began to get serious with the Lord and wanted to really press into that, He said, go back and relearn your craft. And for me, the things I was attracted to was not at all the loose, rustic, kind of folk arty sort of things, but it was these really intricate, beautifully executed pieces of basketry and sculpture that were done with natural materials, but refined in such a way that were so intricate and yet so simple. And it was like, I've got to be able to do that. And so my evolution has been in the other way of trying to find expression, not allowing my material choice to be an excuse for bad work, but rather how to learn to refine that in such a way that it really speaks what I'm trying to communicate. And so, wherever you find yourself in that, I think the thing is, don't stop.
Right.
Don't be afraid to press in to the new thing. Be present with what it is that you respond to. Just because everybody else around you is doing, XYZ type of art or creativity, that may not be for you. Don't be afraid to really find out what it is that resonates with you and press into that, and then find others that are doing the same thing or along those same sort of lines, Christian or not, and begin to glean from them. I was so proud of our friend Gabby the other day. She's wanting to do this, get into all this metal stuff, painting on metal and all that. And we got a beautiful, some new pieces from an artist, Jay Zen, over in Durham, North Carolina. He actually paints on steel and takes it and takes vinegar and Clorox, all this kind of crazy stuff, and sprays the steel and lets it rust and patina and all that, and then paints it and does this high gloss over it. It's just phenomenal. And as soon as we put that up on Facebook, Gabby, I said, come see it. It wasn't 2 hours, boy. She was in the studio. She's feeling it, touching it, looking at it, and I was so proud of her, because it was like, you know what? A lot of times we think, well, gosh, I'm doing that. I'm doing metal art. I can't believe they would put somebody else's metal art in. No, she was in there, teachable, wanting to find out what this guy's doing that's at a different place in creativity than she is. And I was like, come on, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
That's how you grow as a creative, is don't put these walls up of thinking that you're the only one, but man, press into what others are doing and glean from that, and then take it to the next level.
And you have a whole history of amazing art to do that with. Like for me, abstraction, I was like, I'm already doing abstraction, but I want to loosen up my abstraction. So I'm going to artists that have a loose, master artists from the modern arts movement, from different eras, even the Impressionists, because they did a very loose abstraction. Like I'm studying that again. I'm going and I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at it and studying exactly what they did with color, exactly what they did with brushstrokes, exactly how they got that atmosphere with the color contrast. So I'm learning again, and so it's a never-ending process of learning and exploring, and going back in history and looking at artists that you really love, and also looking at your contemporaries, and also building relationships with people that are doing what you'd like to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's huge. I think building relationships with people that can speak into your life, that you can trust. Because a lot of times when you see your work, you don't see the fullness of your work. You just see, okay, there's my latest piece, but you're not. And that's what I think we appreciate about each other and other folks. I really tried. I try a lot to give other people voice in my work. Not that they're dictating what I do, but that I'm hearing what they're hearing. So that I can see my work from the perspective of an interior designer, from a painter, from a metal artist, from a musician, so that I can kind of catch part of that and incorporate it. And man, if we ever lose that, I mean, it's just, I think it's sad, because God speaks to us through so many different ways. And again, if you're wanting to develop your creative voice, you can't do that just by yourself in your prayer closet. And don't say, oh, Matt said that God can't give you everything. No, I'm not saying that. Don't be emailing me. Don't be Facebooking me. What I'm saying is that, see, we get Facebook like that. It's like, what did you mean? You said it. No.
We do it. Are
we still live? Okay. But it's God uses people in our lives. That's why community is so important. If you don't have people in your lives that will say, that's ugly, or that ain't working, or have you thought about this, brother? That is so huge in our life, and it encourages, and it prods, and it develops us. And so
I've learned so much from you in that process of, like, you are continually going, what do you think about this? I mean, you'll be right in the middle of a basket, or even starting the basket. What do you think I could do here? Do you think this works? And I'm just like, I remember when I come into the studio with you, I was like, wow, you're really asking me at this point, like, how to develop this piece? And I felt very honored in that. But I realized that I didn't do that a lot with my work. And I always felt like, here's the thing, I always felt like, this is me and God. This is only me and God. You can see the ending product, but don't put your voice into this intimate place of me and God. And there are still some places that I do that with my work, but I have learned to with our community, with our River Oaks community, with you in the studio with me, with my family even, just saying, what do you think about this? What do you think's strong about it? What don't you like about this? And just begin to let other people into my process. And it's been rewarding, and I think it's been helpful.
Yeah, so. It is. I think and I think it just goes back to the whole thing that community is such a big part of our creativity. Is the way that God's wired us. The fullness of what we're to experience in this life is never by ourselves. This whole idea of just me and Jesus, that's all I need. All I need is you, Lord. I wrote a song about that years ago, and then it's amazing the things you write. Years back, you're like, did I make people sing that?
It's like a country song for Jesus.
I know it is.
All I need is you.
All I need is you, Lord. And it's like, and Jesus is like, no, it's not, because I gave you this thing called community in your life that you'd be able to, experience love, joy, pain, process life through. I wouldn't have given this to you if it was just me and you. I'd have set you on an island and call it done. But that's not the way it is.
Well, what it does is it opens up. When you open your heart to hear other people and to also give yourself to other people, it creates this creative synergy.
Right.
That is beautiful, that most artists outside of the church are already experiencing. But we in the church don't experience in that way because of all of our religious boxes. But it creates this synergy. And so then things begin to happen like what we've seen with the nests. Like Diane McFerrin was doing nests in her work.
Yeah.
Then I did a painting with nests in it and a doll that had nests in it. You're doing themes with nests in it. And it's like the Lord is speaking to all of us in this creative synergy of what he's wanting to create. And I think it was so funny. Like, we got out at the back of our studio and was kind of redecorating our patio area, and we put up these grapevines that weren't good to be inside anymore, and we put them out there, and before we knew it, we're building nests out there for the birds. And it's like, oh my gosh, here it is. It's
and
right
then
here
there they were, and then the birds came. It was
come.
It was so great.
The birds came to live in our nest. I said we either created a habitat or robbers, because they're either just coming for all the grapevines.
That's right.
or they're
and all
really
that raffia
taking it.
I had out there, right, or something.
But it's just incredible how that picture, that visual, is like how we develop relationship. The Lord begins to speak to us individually but collectively at the same time.
Right.
And then out of our life comes this real thing that touches God's creation. And
we've been talking about that.
Even
in corporate worship, it's been interesting to see. I shared on that yesterday just a little bit about how if we can catch this, because I wrote a song yesterday at 5:30 in the morning, had something about a nest in it, and so I wrote it. We did it yesterday. It took off. People loved it, and then we just talked about this whole creative synergy, that if we'll each bring what God's given us, and if we believe that we're in this body for a reason, then we know that it's all connected, and we all grow. It's like a rising tide floats all boats. We all will go to the next level if we'll be true to yield ourselves to that creative process. So, well, this has been really, really great. I hope wherever you are today, you'll press into the new thing. You'll go and search out some new inspiration. Ask others what they think of what you're doing creatively. Get some input. But just whatever you're doing, whatever your creative medium is, never, never, never stop pressing for the new. Never stop listening and looking and being awakened as you live your life. We just want to encourage you to do that.
And paying attention to what you love.
Yes.
And loving yourself and others out of that place.
That's
I think
right.
That's so incredible.
That's right. Because God gave you that. And
Yeah.
He loves that place in you, and He wants to see that flourish. So, hey, we love you very much. We're excited that you were here with us today. Join us next week for In the Studio. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.